Fall in Los Angeles was the gentlest season of the year. The morning chill tempered the daytime heat, and at dusk, the entire city was bathed in pink. Olivia Collins watched the sunset from her window while keeping an eye on her son Aiden playing in the garden. "Mommy, look!" 3-year-old Aiden exclaimed proudly, his small hands digging in the soil. "I found treasure." Olivia smiled, went out to the garden, and knelt down to examine the little pebble in her son's dirty hands. "That's wonderful, Aiden. What a lovely treasure." She gently stroked her son's hair. Brown hair and blue eyes, just like Blake's. Every time she saw her son's face mirroring her husband, her heart filled with complex emotions. Tenderness and sadness. Joy and pain. A mixture of everything. 3 years ago, her husband Blake Collins, an investment analyst, had gone missing during a yacht trip with friends when they were caught in a sudden storm. Despite 2 weeks of intensive search efforts, his body was never found, and he was eventually declared dead. Olivia had been pregnant at the time, and Aiden was born without ever meeting his father. "Bath time, Aiden," Olivia picked up her son. "And then we need to get you cleaned up because Grandma and Grandpa are coming. Will Grandma bring presents?" Aiden's eyes sparkled with anticipation. "Well, we'll see," Olivia laughed as she began washing Aiden's muddy hands. Olivia's parents, Martha and Frank, visited their daughter and grandson about twice a week. They adored their grandson Aiden and were happy to look after him when Olivia was busy with her job selling medical equipment. Just as she finished setting dinner on the living room table, the doorbell rang. "Good evening, you two," Olivia opened the door to welcome her parents. "Olivia, you must be tired," Martha kissed her daughter's cheek while Frank showed a small gift bag from behind his back. "Where's Aiden?" "He just got out of the bath." "Aiden, Grandpa and Grandma are here." Small footsteps raced down the hallway, and Aiden burst out in his pajamas. "Grandpa. Grandma. Hello, little explorer." Frank lifted his grandson and tickled him. "This is from Grandpa." Aiden squealed with delight as he pulled a small toy fire truck from the bag. Olivia smiled but frowned slightly. "Dad, I've told you to stop bringing something every time." "Once in a while is fine," Frank shrugged. It's a grandfather's privilege to spoil his grandson. During dinner, Martha looked at Olivia with concern from across the table. "You look tired, dear. Is work difficult?" Olivia sighed. "A bit, but I'm fine. Actually, there's talk of a promotion." "That's wonderful," Frank exclaimed happily. "But it would require traveling around the country," Olivia continued hesitantly. "I need to go to San Francisco for 3 days next week." "What about Aiden?" Martha asked. "Well," Olivia chose her words carefully. "I was hoping you two could help. Just for 3 days." Martha and Frank looked at each other and smiled warmly. "Of course," Martha replied. "We'll take care of Aiden. You focus on your work." Olivia sighed with relief. "Thank you. That really helps." After dinner, while Aiden was playing with his grandparents, Olivia was cleaning up in the kitchen when the doorbell rang. "I'll get it," Olivia said, drying her hands with a towel as she headed to the door. When she opened it, her sister Caroline was standing there. "Surprise," Caroline said with a bright smile, holding up a bottle of wine. "May I come in?" "Of course," Olivia smiled and hugged her sister. After Blake's death, Caroline had started keeping in touch more frequently, saying she wanted to support her sister, and had moved to a nearby apartment a few months ago. Previously, she had lived in a distant state and wasn't very close to her sister, but now she visited several times a week. "Caroline," Martha called joyfully from the living room. "How nice of you to join us." "Hey, Aiden," Caroline crouched down in front of her nephew. "Can I have a hug?" Aiden, looking a bit shy, ran to Caroline. She lifted him up and kissed his cheek. "You've grown so much since I last saw you." As Olivia watched her sister with her son, she felt a slight unease. Caroline had been showing an unusual interest in Aiden lately. But she dismissed the thought. Caroline was probably just showing affection for her deceased brother-in-law's child. Later that night, after everyone had left, Olivia picked up a photo of Blake in her bedroom. A picture from their wedding day. His smile still warmed her heart. "If only you were here," she whispered to the photo. "Aiden is so smart and kind, just like you." She sighed and put the photo back on her nightstand. Tomorrow would be a busy day preparing for her business trip. There was no time to dwell on sadness. She had her son. For the sake of their future, she had to keep moving forward. The next morning, Caroline showed up unannounced. "I came to help you prepare for your trip," she said, but Olivia couldn't understand the real reason. "Thank you," Olivia replied, but she noticed something strange in her sister's expression. Just for a moment, Caroline's eyes revealed an emotion: tension. Guilt. But the expression quickly disappeared, replaced by her usual bright smile. "Good luck with your trip," Caroline patted Olivia's shoulder lightly on the morning of her departure. "Don't worry about Aiden. Just focus on your work." Olivia smiled back, but deep down she felt an inexplicable anxiety. However, she quickly forgot about this unease as she got into the taxi. San Francisco morning was shrouded in fog. Olivia gazed at the gray cityscape from her hotel window, feeling a strange emptiness in her heart as she spent her first morning away from her son. But she had an important business meeting today. There was no time for sentimentality. "Ms. Collins, that was an excellent presentation." James Martin, the purchasing manager at Hudson Medical, smiled with satisfaction. "The medical equipment you proposed is exactly what we've been looking for." Olivia sighed with relief while maintaining a professional smile. "Thank you, Mr. Martin. I'm confident our equipment will contribute to improving the quality of patient care at your company." The negotiations went more smoothly than expected, with only the signing of the contract remaining for the next day. As she was leaving the conference room, Martin called out to her, "After finalizing the contract tomorrow, we'd like to celebrate with the team. Please join us, Ms. Collins." "I'd be honored," Olivia smiled, but in her mind, she was thinking about catching the earliest flight the day after tomorrow. She wanted to see her son as soon as possible. Back at the hotel, Olivia felt tired even though it was still early evening. After ordering a light dinner from room service, she called her parents. "Hello, Mom. How's Aiden?" "Olivia, you called at just the right time," Martha's voice was calm. "Aiden is already asleep. He played so hard at the park today, he was completely exhausted." Olivia felt a little disappointed but understood. "I see. Please give him a goodnight kiss for me." "Of course. How are things on your end? Did the business meeting go well?" "Yes, very well. I'm scheduled to sign the contract tomorrow." After hanging up, Olivia lay on the bed, looking at a photo of Aiden. Even though it had only been one day, she missed him terribly. Tomorrow she would call earlier to make sure she could talk to Aiden. With that resolution in mind, she fell asleep. The next day was even busier. After the final contract negotiations and signing, Olivia succeeded in closing a major deal with Hudson Medical. She received a congratulatory call from her boss and felt a bit proud. Building a career while raising her son alone after losing her husband had not been easy, but she was forging her own path. That evening's team dinner was held at an upscale restaurant. Olivia limited herself to one glass of wine and excused herself early. Back at the hotel, she immediately called her parents. "Dad? Is Aiden still awake?" "Oh, Olivia," Frank's voice came through. "Aiden is playing with Caroline." "Caroline? Olivia was a bit surprised. She's there. Yes, she's been here since this afternoon. Said she wanted to play with Aiden. I see. Olivia chose her words carefully. Caroline has been coming over quite often lately. Yes, that's true, Frank replied, not seeming particularly concerned. Should I put Aiden on? Please. After a moment, Aiden's small voice came on the line. Hello, Mommy. Aiden. It's Mommy. How are you doing? Are you having fun at Grandpa and Grandma's house? Yes. Aunt Caroline is here too. She bought me a toy. Olivia frowned. Another gift. How many times had she asked them not to spoil Aiden? But she avoided mentioning it over the phone. That's nice. Mommy will be home tomorrow night, okay? Do you promise? There was a hint of anxiety in Aiden's voice. I promise, honey, Olivia smiled. I love you. I love you, Mommy. Martha took the phone next and reassured her, don't worry. Aiden is really having a good time. He's getting along well with Caroline too. Yes, that's what concerns me a bit, Olivia said honestly. Caroline didn't show much interest in Aiden before, did she? But lately. Well, Martha said thoughtfully, but that's probably a good thing, isn't it? Caroline is finally beginning to accept her role as an aunt. Aiden seems to really like Caroline too. Olivia wanted to say more but didn't pursue it further. I suppose so. Good night, Mom. The next afternoon, Olivia finished her last meeting earlier than planned. That went more smoothly than expected, the client representative said with a smile. Will you be able to go back on today's flight? That's the plan, Olivia answered with a smile. I'm eager to see my son. She quickly returned to the hotel and packed her bags. Before heading to the airport, she called her parents. However, the call wouldn't connect. When she tried again, someone answered on the third ring. Hello. It was Aiden's voice. Aiden. It's Mommy, Olivia said happily. Where are Grandma and Grandpa? Aiden started to say something, but there was an adult voice in the background. They seemed to be saying something, but she couldn't hear clearly. Aiden. Olivia became a bit worried. Is someone there with you? Grandma and Aunt Caroline are here, Aiden answered. Olivia felt relieved. I see. Guess what? Mommy can come home today. I'll see you soon. Really? Aiden's voice sounded happy. Yes, really. Can you put Grandma on the phone? Okay. After a moment, Martha's voice came on the line. Olivia. What is it? Mom, my work finished early, so I can come home today. I'm about to head to the airport. My, that's wonderful. Martha said, but Olivia thought she detected some tension in her mother's voice. What time will you arrive? Around 7 or 8 o'clock. Keep Aiden there. I'll come pick him up. All right. Travel safely. After hanging up, Olivia got into a taxi and found herself thinking. Aiden's voice had sounded fine, but somehow her uneasiness wouldn't go away. On the plane, she felt mixed emotions about her sister becoming close to her son recently. Was it simply an aunt's affection, or was there something else? Stop thinking nonsense, Olivia told herself. Caroline is just being affectionate with Aiden. Yet, deep down, an inexplicable sense of discomfort remained. As the night view of Los Angeles spread out below the window, Olivia's taxi arrived at her apartment. I'll drop off my luggage first, then go to my parents' house, she told herself. Opening the front door, Olivia set her bags on the floor. The house was quiet, and the space without Aiden felt oddly lonely. After a quick shower and change of clothes, she checked her smartphone. The screen displayed a text message from her sister. Olivia, don't worry about Aiden. I'll stay at your parents' house tonight. I'll bring him home in the morning. The message was from an hour ago. Olivia frowned. Her sister apparently didn't know she had already returned home. She quickly replied. I've already come back, so I'm going to pick him up now. After sending the reply, Olivia grabbed her car keys and headed to her parents' house. While driving, she wondered why Caroline had planned to keep Aiden overnight. It seemed a bit strange that her sister would go that far, though it would have made sense for her parents. When she arrived at her parents' house, only the porch light was on. When Olivia rang the doorbell, her father Frank opened the door with a surprised expression after a moment. Olivia. Frank was clearly surprised. I didn't know you were coming back today. What? I called Mom on the phone. I said I was coming back today, Olivia replied in confusion. Frank scratched his head. Well, the phone did ring, but I think Martha answered it. She didn't say anything to me. Feeling a bit suspicious, Olivia entered the house. I want to see Aiden. In the living room were Martha and Aiden. Aiden was in his pajamas, sitting on his mother's lap while she read him a picture book. When he saw Olivia, his face lit up with joy. Mommy! Aiden jumped up and ran toward Olivia. Olivia hugged her son, feeling relief at his warmth and sweet smell. Aiden, I've missed you. Martha was smiling, but there was something tense about her expression. Olivia, it's good you could come back early. Olivia noticed her mother's unnatural manner but decided to ignore it for now. Where's Caroline? She asked. She texted me saying she was staying overnight with Aiden. Martha answered somewhat hesitantly, oh, she went out shopping. She should be back soon. Olivia looked around the living room. An unfamiliar smartphone was sitting on the table. Whose is that? It's Caroline's, Martha answered quickly. She must have forgotten it. Olivia turned back to Aiden, who was still happily in her arms. Hey, Aiden. Who were you talking to when Mommy called earlier? Aiden gave an innocent smile. Daddy. With that one word, the air in the room froze. Olivia couldn't understand her son's words and doubted her ears. Daddy? She repeated with a trembling voice. Martha and Frank exchanged glances, clearly disturbed. Olivia's heart began to race. What do you mean, Aiden? Olivia gently gripped her son's shoulders and looked into his eyes. Who do you mean by Daddy? Instead of answering, Aiden pointed at Caroline's smartphone. At that moment, the smartphone began to ring. Aiden jumped out of Olivia's arms and ran toward the phone. It's from Daddy. Olivia hurriedly followed her son and grabbed the phone before he could answer it. The screen displayed Daddy. Her hand trembled, and she felt like she couldn't breathe. Then the call ended. What is this? Olivia turned to her parents, holding up the smartphone. Explain. Martha and Frank looked at each other again, seemingly at a loss for words. Mommy, I want to see Daddy, Aiden pleaded. When is Daddy coming? Olivia was filled with confusion and fear. Her husband was supposed to have died 3 years ago. Aiden had never met his father. So why was he saying, Daddy? She stared at her sister's smartphone and swiped the screen. It was locked. What's the passcode? Olivia asked her parents, but they remained silent. Olivia turned to Aiden. Aiden, do you know who Daddy is? Have you met him? Aiden answered with a slightly confused look, Daddy is Aunt Caroline's friend. A terrible suspicion began to grow in Olivia's mind. Caroline's abnormal interest in Aiden lately. Her parents' strange behavior. And now, this mysterious Daddy. Dad, Mom, Olivia said with a trembling voice. Tell me the truth. What's going on? Martha began to tear up. Frank let out a deep sigh. It might be better to wait until Caroline gets back. No, I want to know right now. Olivia's voice was strong and determined. But just then, they heard the front door open. Caroline's voice called out, "I'm home. Aiden, Auntie's back." The moment Caroline entered the living room, her expression froze. Still holding shopping bags, she stared at Olivia. "Olivia." Caroline's voice was small. "You came back early." Olivia held up her sister's smartphone. "What is this? Who is this person Aiden calls Daddy?" The color drained from Caroline's face. She dropped her bags on the floor and opened her mouth as if searching for words, but nothing came out. "Answer me," Olivia tried to stay calm. "What have you been telling my son?" "Olivia, calm down," Frank tried to intervene. "We can explain." "Explain what?" Olivia's voice rose. "My husband is dead. Yet there's someone Aiden calls Daddy. How do you plan to explain that?" Caroline lowered her gaze to the floor. I'll explain." Just then, the smartphone began to ring again. A call from Daddy. Olivia stared at the screen, overcome by a mixture of fear and anger. She swiped to answer the call. "Who are you?" Olivia asked with a trembling voice. On the other end, there was a moment of silence. Then a man's voice came through. A voice all too familiar. Olivia's knees shook, and she almost collapsed into a chair. "Olivia." It was Blake's voice. Olivia hung up the phone. Her breathing became rough, and she felt a sensation like her chest was being compressed. "This is a dream. A cruel joke," she muttered with a trembling voice. The three adults in the living room were staring at her. Caroline looked like she was about to cry. Martha was already in tears. Frank stood by the wall with a grave expression. "Olivia, let me explain." Caroline stepped forward. "Explain?" Olivia said angrily. "You're telling me my husband is alive even though he was supposed to be dead? For 3 years. Let's talk in the car," Caroline said quietly. "This isn't something Aiden should hear." Olivia looked at her confused son. Aiden was bewildered, unable to understand the situation. "Aiden, play with Grandma for a little while," Olivia said gently. "Mommy will be right back." Martha took Aiden's hand and led him to another room. Olivia stared at Caroline and calmly stated, "Not in the car. We're going to your apartment." "I'm going alone. I want to know the truth without anyone interfering." Caroline tried to resist, but Olivia's determination was firm. "Give me your keys. Right now." 20 minutes later, Olivia was standing in front of Caroline's apartment. With trembling hands, she opened the door and entered. The apartment was orderly but somehow lacked a lived-in feeling. It was like a place someone only used occasionally. A faint sound came from the back room. Olivia's heart pounded fiercely. As she slowly walked toward the door, she felt a mixture of fear and anger unlike anything she had ever experienced in her life. When she opened the door, Caroline was hurriedly trying to hide something. "What are you hiding?" Olivia demanded, to which Caroline replied, "Nothing," though she was clearly agitated. "Show me," Olivia's voice was cold. "It's none of your business," Caroline said defensively. Olivia reached her breaking point. "None of my business? After I've grieved for my husband for 3 years thinking he was dead? After Aiden has grown up without a father?" As the two struggled, the closet door opened, and a man stepped out. It was Blake. Time seemed to stand still. Olivia couldn't believe what she was seeing. His hair was a bit longer, and his skin was suntanned, but it was undoubtedly Blake. Her husband. Aiden's father. A man who was supposed to have died 3 years ago. Olivia. Blake's voice was low and uncertain. How? Olivia's voice trembled. How are you alive? Blake and Caroline exchanged glances and dropped their shoulders as if in resignation. Sit down, Blake pointed to the living room. I'll tell you everything. When the three sat in the living room, Blake began to reveal the truth. I didn't die, he began with the obvious. The yacht accident was staged. Why? Olivia's voice was cold. I had debts, Blake lowered his gaze. Huge debts. I failed at investments and borrowed money from loan sharks. When I couldn't pay it back, the debt collection got harsh. I started getting threatened. And then, I thought if I faked my death, I could use the insurance money to pay off the debts, Blake said quietly. And Caroline? Olivia stared at her sister. We were. Caroline stumbled over her words. Having an affair, Olivia stated coldly. Caroline silently nodded. At first, it was just a romance. But then the money issues came up. So you helped with the plan, Olivia's voice was full of hatred. I planned to pay off the debts with the insurance money and start a new life, Blake continued. I was living in Mexico under a false name. But, Caroline interrupted, Blake started wanting to meet Aiden. So that's why you've been getting close to Aiden lately, Olivia felt intense anger. Using my son. It's not using him, Blake objected. He's my son. I just wanted to see him. Your son. Olivia laughed sarcastically. Where were you for 3 years? His birthdays. The day he first walked. The nights he cried and couldn't sleep. Blake fell silent. My parents knew too, Olivia suddenly realized. Everyone knew except me. Martha and Frank only found out recently, Caroline said weakly. I told them 2 months ago. They were confused but thought it might be good for Aiden. Lies, Olivia stood up. I don't need to hear any more. She took her smartphone from her pocket and declared, I'm calling the police. Wait. Blake hurriedly stood up. Please don't do that. Why not? Olivia's eyes were as cold as ice. You committed insurance fraud. You betrayed me and our son. Olivia, please, Caroline begged. We can find a solution. A solution? Olivia scoffed. My life has been ruined. Aiden grew up thinking he had no father. This isn't something that can be solved. She called 911. I'd like to report a suspect in an insurance fraud and perjury case. Blake tried to rush out of the room, but Olivia calmly said, it's useless to run. I've sent your photos to the police. Caroline broke down crying. Olivia, you're my sister. Sister. Olivia's voice shook with anger. A sister wouldn't do this. For the 10 minutes until the police arrived, the three sat in silence. Olivia's heart had turned as cold as ice. The pain of betrayal had created hatred within her that went beyond grief. When the police officers entered the apartment, Olivia had regained her composure. This man is my husband who was reported dead 3 years ago. He is suspected of insurance fraud. Blake and Caroline offered no resistance and were taken by the police. As she was leaving, Caroline left Olivia with final words. Olivia. I think you'll understand someday. Understand. Olivia responded coldly. I can never forgive what you two did to me and Aiden. Never. As the apartment door closed, Olivia was finally alone. And then she collapsed in violent tears, releasing all the emotions she had suppressed for 3 years. During the police investigation, the full extent of Blake and Caroline's plan was revealed. Blake had failed in his investments and owed $2 million to loan sharks. As debt collection intensified, Blake, who was having an affair with Caroline, devised a plan to fake his death and collect a $3 million life insurance payout. "I married Olivia because her family was wealthy," Blake confessed coldly. "But in the end, her parents wouldn't lend me money." Caroline's testimony was also shocking. At first it was just a romance, but then the money issues came up. Her excuse sounded weak. Olivia confronted her parents. "Why did you keep quiet?" Martha cried. Caroline said, "Blake is in danger. I wanted to protect her." Frank held his head. "I knew it was legally wrong. But I thought Aiden needed a father figure. You chose Caroline over me." Olivia's words were biting. The investigation revealed that Blake had been living under a false name in a small Mexican town. Caroline visited him regularly, and Olivia's parents had secretly visited twice. The reason? Because he is Aiden's father. In court, Blake received a 7-year prison sentence for insurance fraud and perjury. Caroline was also sentenced to 3 years as an accomplice. The parents sought leniency as witnesses, but Olivia told the truth on the stand. "Their actions have deeply wounded me and my son." A year after the verdict, Olivia was promoted at her company, and Aiden started kindergarten. They were establishing a rhythm for their new life, but Olivia kept her relationship with her parents to a minimum. She allowed monthly visits only because Aiden needs grandparents. One day, a letter arrived from Caroline. "I want to talk to you," it said. After much inner conflict, Olivia decided to visit. In prison, Caroline tried to justify herself, saying, "I was manipulated by Blake," but Olivia calmly retorted, "No, you made your choice. Money and passion over me and Aiden." Caroline finally admitted, "It was all my responsibility," and tearfully said, "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just hope that someday we can face each other as sisters again." Olivia said, forgiving and forgetting are different, and that she needed time. After leaving the prison, when Aiden asked, "Who was that lady?" Olivia replied, "Mommy's sister. Someday, I'll tell you everything." 2 years later, Caroline was paroled. She began working as a volunteer at a homeless shelter in a distant city, trying to make amends for her past. Every month, she sent a small amount to Olivia for Aiden's child support. Blake got involved in another fraud scheme in prison, extending his sentence. When Olivia visited, he resentfully said, "You ruined our plans," but Olivia firmly replied, "You ruined Aiden's and my life." On Christmas Day, a package from Caroline arrived at Olivia's home. Inside were a letter and presents for Aiden. After reading the letter and a long silence, Olivia picked up the phone. "Caroline. It's Olivia. Aiden is happy with your gift. If you'd like, I think I could let you see him briefly in the new year." Through pain, Olivia learned that true family is not just about blood ties but about honesty and trust. She was now seeking a new form of family built on truth for herself and her son. Having overcome the pain of betrayal, choosing understanding and moving forward rather than forgiveness, Olivia embodied a new strength.